I want to share with you a very Christian, conservative Christian view, and in this case, conservative Catholic view from Michael Voris, who is a Catholic broadcaster in Detroit, Michigan. And he's taking a look at what happened in Orlando and sharing some very strong thoughts. That'll be up in a minute or so. But I do want to remind people we talk a little bit about people's health on this program from time to time. And of course, staying in good health is one of those things we'd all like to do. It keeps you out of the ER, keeps you away from all of those prescriptions, and saves you some money. But you've got to sometimes look at that overall approach. Dr. Eric F. Jones uses a holistic, systemic approach to wellness and has been in practice now, almost 25 years here in Twin Falls. He has master's and doctoral degrees in marriage and family therapy. Dr. Eric F. Jones uses methods of alternative healing such as naturopathy, medicinal herbs, nutrition, sound waves, intellectual and cognitive self-regulation, and napathy. All of these will help remedy and manage mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual challenges. He's currently accepting new patients, and he has evening and Saturday appointments available. You can give him a telephone call at 731-7178, and his Facebook page, Eric F. Jones, PhD, mental health and wellness therapist, and that's Eric with a C. Michael Voris, I watch him quite a bit on his YouTube channel. He owns a TV station in Detroit that is dedicated to his Roman Catholic faith. This was a guy who, for the first 40-some years of his life, didn't take faith very seriously, and then apparently had one of those road to Damascus moments. And over the last several years, he's really been making an effort to speak out about faith and how we relate it to our modern world. And he has a signature program called The Vortex. And I've got a couple of minutes of The Vortex here that I wanted to share with you. And he says there is a vast difference between, in his case, he's a conservative Catholic, although he references in this segment all conservative Christians, but there's a huge difference between our faith and the Muslim faith, especially in relation to what happened over the course of the weekend in Orlando, Florida.
The Liberal Alliance has brought various factions together with one common goal: to end Catholic morality's influence on Western civilization. There are indeed some strange pairings in this Liberal Alliance: homosexualists, the Democratic Party, the mainstream media, and Islam. Whatever differences Islam and liberals have, they have been willing to overlook them to join forces against the common enemy of Christianity, specifically Catholicism. So, for example, from ISIS and the Islamic world, you hear threats against Rome, loud threats, so loud that Italian army soldiers now stand ready, fully armed with machine guns in very plain sight around all of the boundaries of Vatican City. And you hear various gay groups that the Catholic Church hates gays, that we are homophobic, that we are a threat, that we need to have our nonprofit status stripped of us, that we need to be monitored, and so forth. One point needs to become very clear to all those who wish to paint the church as an enemy of gays. We want you saved. Islam wants you dead.
We had a call the other day from a resident Latino liberal who was, just as usual, just blah, 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 ranting and raving. No one could understand what he says. And then click, the usual drive-by attack he does. I'm sure people out there driving to work in the morning going, gosh, I can't understand a word that fellow just said, but gee, he's changed my mind. Yeah, happens all the time. But he was saying, you're not very nice to homosexuals either on the radio. And what? Have I ever beat one up here in the studio while I'm on air? No. Just his own church has certain views on this, which he tends to forget and tries to avoid. But Voris just points that out. Now, the reason, of course, that Muslims are, the terrorists especially, are after the Vatican and the Roman Church is because it's the largest. But if they were to take it down, then they would turn and they would be looking at Southern Baptists in the United States. And then when they take that down, then they'll move on to some of the other larger, then just one after another, they plan to pick us all off. That's a concern. And to sit here and say, well, we can't call them radical Islamists because it'll hurt their feelings. But there you go. Voris sums it up well. The Christian viewpoint is, okay, what you may be doing is wrong with your lifestyle. We're here to help save you. Now, maybe they don't want to be saved, or maybe they don't believe they need to be saved. But we're not going to pull out guns and knives then and start attacking them. Where the Muslim view is, kill them. There's no dialogue even. It's just kill them. Throw them off the top of a tower. Go to a nightclub and blow them all away. That's the difference between the two faiths. And when Sharam Hadian was here last summer visiting, and he was speaking over at the East Side Baptist Church, he made it clear. Of course, now he is a convert from Islam to Christianity, but he made it clear. In Islam, you basically you die for your God. In Christianity, God died for you. Now that is a huge, huge difference when it comes to world outlooks. 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Got plenty more coming up in our waning minutes today, and also Rush Limbaugh will be along. He's back from his long vacation. He'll be along just after the news at 10 o'clock this morning from Fox. In the meantime, I hope you can stick around. We'll try to squeeze in some more of your telephone calls as well during the next segment of the show. Evidence mounting that Lefty doesn't want you to actually consider even there might be another truth other than the one that Lefty is trying to share with you following Orlando. You got to buy their narrative or else. 944, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 57 right now because a gay man who happens to be a conservative has been silenced on Twitter because they don't want him making comments that might be too close to the truth about what took place in Orlando. Got this to share with you very quickly. If you're listening to our program, I am so happy. You should be with us every day, and you should have that radio glued to your ears, one of them anyway. But if you can't do that because you're having hearing issues, we have a recommendation, and that is to see a doctor of audiology named Dr. Christine Pickup in Rupert, now the only locally owned independent hearing healthcare practice in southern Idaho. Dr. Pickup reminds you that if you're like most people, you think of hearing as something that happens in the ears, but in reality, it's what's between your ears that counts. The brain is where sound becomes details, and your brain has to work hard to make this happen. When the sound signals from your ears are compromised, your brain has to work even harder to fill in the gaps, and the extra effort does take a toll. Don't let your brain down, she recommends. She goes on to say, take care of your hearing with the help of Mount Harrison Audiology. You can call the office at 208-312-0957. Once again, Mount Harrison Audiology.com is the website. We have a caller with us. You're on the air on KLIX.
Yes, on this Orlando incident, the fact that Hillary has basically thrown the homosexual community under the bus and has thrown in with the Muslims. What the LGBT community needs to think about is a wedding cake really worth voting for Hillary?
It's a very good point. I thank you. I guess she won't be getting many dates either. Well, that's, she's never came right out and said, I'm playing for the other team. I know that it's been referenced, and she tries to avoid just any discussion on it. This is from the Daily Caller today. A scheduled Tuesday night speech by Milo Yiannopoulos at the University of Central Florida was canceled after Orlando police warned they didn't have the resources needed to guarantee safety. Yiannopoulos, who is gay, wrote an article for Breitbart accusing liberals of prioritizing Islam over gay rights and are thus responsible for the shooting. That did not make many people happy. He's on a 50-state tour. He's doing a speaking tour on college campuses all over the country. He's a British guy. He's a Trump supporter. He may be gay, but he's also conservative. That does happen from time to time. And now lefties are trying to silence him because he said that in order to try and appease Muslims in this country, that the left has allowed this sort of thing to fester. It's allowed its Muslim friends to go out there and hack to pieces or shoot down the so-called gay allies of liberals across this country. And now Twitter has suspended his account because they don't want him, well, I guess the Muslims would say, proselytizing any longer against Islam. Why? Because he has an opinion that is not a liberal opinion, and therefore he has to be silenced. 947, Bill Colley with you on Top Story this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Daily Caller also has this. A New York Times editorial says Congress should secretly suspend Second Amendment rights. I referenced this earlier. A New York Times editorial believes that or calls for a new law allowing a secret court, like a star chamber, to take away citizens' right to own a gun at the discretion of the federal government. The piece is written by Adam Winkler. Boy, there's a guy who's got a real macho-sounding name. A UCLA School of Law professor. Winkler argues the secret court is a good idea because the same kind of court is already used for government surveillance, and historically, the U.S. has committed worse rights violations, such as Japanese internment camps. Of course, if more of those Japanese Americans had had firearms at the time, they may have not gone off to the camps. The writer says, here's how it would work. When the Attorney General wanted to revoke someone's Second Amendment rights. Now, here you go again. The creators of that document, and now liberals, of course, appreciate the Constitution when they feel it benefits them, but the creators of that document spoke themselves of a creator. That would be God. They spoke of a creator who gave you these rights. And their argument was, these rights are already there, and a government that blocks them is a bad government. So you have these rights right from the start. That Bill of Rights, those first 10, those fellows, those brilliant men who put that document together said these rights were given to you by God, by the Lord, and that no man on earth was justified in taking them away from you. And if any man or woman did that on earth, then they were in violation of the law of the Creator, that is, God, the Creator of the universe. Do we have that clear? So here is this communist puke from UCLA saying that we should do this. The Attorney General, of all people, now is going to be the arbiter of what apparently God likes or doesn't like, and the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, temporarily, is going to have the ability to come take away your firearms. But she'll use a secret court. In other words, there won't even be media there looking over your shoulders. Now, media is all, in a tizzy because Donald Trump won't let the Washington Post on the campaign bus. A bus, by the way, is just, I'm using that as it's not literal. Trump campaigns in a large jet. They're all screaming about that, but they wouldn't apparently have a problem if they were not allowed to come into a secret court while you were being stripped of your right to bear arms by a human being who is not God, but apparently would believe that she was. The writer goes on to say the court proceedings would be secret and have no clear path to appeal. So in other words, and of course, we're told that we always have an opportunity to appeal, to petition, but you would not have that available any longer. Well, this is tyranny. This is a dictatorship. This is Big Brother. This is 1984, Orwell's 1984. And because Lefty cannot admit that the religion of mayhem is responsible for what happened in Orlando, oh, I don't want to make Abdul mad, He might come by and shoot off a few more rounds. Oh, no. So they've got to blame guns, and they've got to set in motion the dictatorship of liberalism in order to get what they want. This is the future if you elect Hillary Rotten Clinton as President of the United States. And if you give power to the Democrats in the House and Senate. This is the future. They are godless in the first place. They booed God at the 2012 Democrat National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. They hate God. They hate guns. They hate you. They feel they are smarter than you and that they need to control you. Imagine a boot stamping on the face of a man forever. This is where they are headed with all of this. Every opportunity they have, such as an Islamic terrorist event, they turn around instead to their own advantage, and that is to turn you into a slave of the government that they envision, which they believe would be perfect because they believe they are perfect. You are not. Therefore, they should be leading you with come-alongs, dragging you around by the nose, and forcing you to do whatever they want you to do. Force you to eat granola versus maybe eating a steak. Force you to go bicycling on the bike path instead of riding in a car or an SUV to work. Force you to read the right books, watch the right TV shows. This is what we're dealing with, my friends. This is so many, many years ago, right after Obamacare was rammed down our throats. By the way, I happened to be there that weekend when the House voted to adopt it. Nancy Pelosi put armed guards. They're so worried about regular people having guns. There were men out there, and they had some mean-looking rifles, who were standing guard on the steps of the Capitol building, and I was standing out there with the mob, so to speak. We were talking to a young couple from St. Louis, Missouri. They were pushing around their children in a baby carriage. Yes, these dangerous little babies riding around in carriages were a huge threat to Nancy Pelosi and her fellow travelers that weekend. So they sent guards out just in case those babies got a little uppity. They were going to gun them down in the baby carriages. That's what happened that weekend. That's how they got Obamacare through, because they threw up armed guards to intimidate the public and waved rifles at us so that we would not cause any trouble while they foisted this upon us, even though the American people, the majority, didn't want it. We wanted jobs, for crying out loud. We didn't get them. We got this. And by the way, there's going to be a 27% increase in insurance costs coming in Idaho, just in case you didn't know that, thanks to Obamacare, which you did not want. But afterward, I went to a speech at my local church, and there was a fellow there by the name of Leonard Klein. Leonard Klein was a Lutheran minister and for many, many years a historian, taught various history courses at various universities and the like. Eventually, he ended up becoming a Roman Catholic priest because he thought the Lutherans were too liberal and too much a party to this effort by liberals to take over the planet, and then to force the rest of us to labor for them. But he was explaining to us after Obamacare was adopted, he said, throughout history, you have people who think they're smarter than everybody else, and when they get control, there are disastrous results. And I sat in my seat thinking, what does he mean when he speaks like this? Well, obviously the communists in Russia thought they were smarter than everyone else in 1917, and the result was tens of millions of people were starved in order for the communists to maintain control over the following decades, or sent to gulags, or tortured, or just plain shot without any trial. And the People's Republic of Kampuchea, which had been Cambodia, the communists thought they were smarter than everyone else. They came along. They murdered 2 million people, sometimes because people had glasses, and that was considered to be too Western. And if you had any education, you were murdered as well. And they claimed the calendar was now year zero and that civilization was starting over again. They destroyed their culture and their country. In China, Mao killed off 50 million of his people because he was smarter than everyone else. But it's not just in the last century. Go back a few centuries. In France, you had a group of people who decided they had to behead the king and take over the country. Now, the king may have been a bit of a lout, and he may not have been aware of how bad things were. But did they have to lop off his head? Don't know. But they did that, and then they took over, and then when the rabble they claimed to represent wouldn't follow the rules, or at least follow what they wanted them to do, they started lopping off the heads of the rabble. They took guillotines out to the middle of the town square. Hundreds of thousands of people died, if not millions, because a fellow named Robespierre decided people weren't doing things the way they were supposed to be doing them, dang it, and if you're going to be that way, I'm going to have to kill you. This is where the liberals are taking us. Every shooting by an angry Muslim who is following the instructions he learned online from ISIS is just an opportunity for Lefty to disarm you, to shackle you, and if you don't go along with Lefty, to chop off your head. This is the direction we're headed, folks. And you've got to be forever vigilant, because if you don't do it, we are all going to be just nothing but slaves. And the future will be exactly that, what Orwell predicted in 1984. Imagine the boot of a man, or imagine a boot stamping on the face of a man forever. This is not the type of life I want for myself. It's not the type of life I want for my daughter. It is not the type of life I want for my grandchildren. There are some things still worth fighting for. And we may well, in a very short period of time, within our lifetimes, we may be called to stand up and defend what we have known, all that is good, against the hordes that will be coming for us. They'll be coming for your firearms. They'll be coming for your bank accounts. They'll be coming for your homes. They'll be coming for your liberty. Coming up following this program, Rush Limbaugh at 10 o'clock. The news, of course, first, though, from Fox. And then at 1 o'clock this afternoon, following Fox News, it's Sean Hannity until 4 o'clock. Following 4 o'clock news, Glenn Beck, right here on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. And a reminder, of course, Dave Ramsey tonight. God willing, if the creek don't rise, they'll allow me to come back and do this all over again tomorrow on Thursday between 8 and 10 o'clock. Bill Colley saying, hey, have a great day. And if nothing else, keep your powder dry.